Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It is December 17th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And I'm guessing most of you didn't think you'd hear from me today, especially this late, but there weren't very many trades today, and I had to come back to the office to wrap up a couple things. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do a chart lesson because this is an interesting day. Plus, there's something I want to show you. I talk about gaps on the chart a lot, and people just get really confused by it. And the reason is because we're looking at a 24-hour chart and you don't see the gap on the chart because there's not one on this chart. But when I'm talking about a gap, what I'm talking about is the regular trading session, which closes at 3:30 and opens at 8:30 every day. It doesn't have all this price action in the overnight that's in the gray here. So what I finally decided with an easy way to show this would be to change the data series. And so I'm going to do that here. So let's go to our data series, and we're going to change our trading time from extended trading hours, which is the 24-hour, to regular trading hours. And just look at the difference. Now hopefully you can see the gap. You see we closed, this was the high point yesterday, and the market didn't open till way up here. Well, there's a gap between this point and that point. And that's what I'm talking about. And most of the time, prices will come back and fill that gap. And you can see we almost got it filled here. We didn't quite get back, but we finally came back and filled it here. And then prices went higher from there. And that's pretty standard. Another trader sent me something today saying that it only filled that gap 20% of the time. I'm not saying he's wrong, but that doesn't feel right to me. I'd like to see how much time he used and how far back he went and so forth. To see that, because I've seen it. I've seen two gaps this week. There was another one back over here. There was a gap right there. You can see we filled it. That's twice, but there was another one three times right there. There's three. No, there's no gap there because we're inside the day before. Here's the other one. There was a gap this day. We filled it. So that's, we didn't have, even though we gapped down, we're still inside the day before's there, so no gap. So anyway, there's three gaps this week, and we filled all three of them. So I just find it hard to believe. I don't know how I did that. I just find it hard to believe that we only fill those gaps 20% of the time, just based on seeing it three times this week, and we filled it all three times. But hopefully that allows you to see what I'm saying. But yeah, there's a gap. It's a tiny one there, but we filled it. That's not really a gap there because you can see we're still inside yesterday's trading. It's only when you open, like here, we opened outside of that whole day's trading. So there's a gap. We traded down and filled it. Then we gapped open the next day, but we're still inside this day's trading. So there's not really a gap on this chart either. I mean, there's a gap right there, but there's not a gap on the daily chart. I mean, we're not completely outside, and I'm talking about being completely outside, and maybe that's what the other trader is talking about. Maybe he's not taking that into account, but even right here, we just make sure I'm why can't I get my I don't know why I can't get my line to come up. Oh, something's going on there. But anyway, there's a gap there. I'm pretty sure there's a gap between. That's not a very big one, but you see we still filled it. Then you come over here. Now this was a rather big gap here, but we filled it. So that's 3 days this week, and we filled it all three times. So I really find it hard to believe that we're only filling that gap 20% of the time. Something doesn't feel right. So maybe he's misunderstanding too what I'm trying to explain. But people get confused on this thing all the time. Is like, where's the gap? Well, you're not going to see it on the 24-hour chart. unless you know what you're looking for, and most of you don't understand what we're looking for. So if we go back to the correct, what we use 24 hours, you don't see the gap because there's trading during that time. So I hope that clarifies that for some of you. But that's important because most of the time we'll fill that gap on the same day. I still believe that to be true. Uh, this other trader, I asked him to send me some more data on it, and I've been known to be right. I'd almost swear that I believe something was true, but when I see 3 in 1 week and all 3 of them were filled on the same day, that's 100%, 3 out of 3, and so that doesn't feel like 20% to me, but I could be wrong. So, but I'm thinking maybe we're talking about different gaps or whatever. But anyway, let's talk about the trades real quick. I want to make this quick and short. This is going to be it, folks. No more chart lessons for the rest of the year unless I get bored over the holidays and just have to come in and do something. So at this point, I'm not planning on doing. I'm pretty much done for the year unless I get bored. So um, anyway, let's talk about this chart. Early on, I looked at this. It's maybe a downward trend, and maybe it's still accurate. It's just hard to say. You see how we started finding all that support across there. So once you started to see us going sideways here, I just removed this and went to the range. And we did end up pushing through there, but we got a little, what we do is we have 2 legs down here. And so you'll want to measure this leg. And you can see we didn't quite get there. But that's because we found all this support. We just had a hard time getting through there. When we did, they tried to reach it and couldn't. And most all breakouts fail, and this one was no different. We traded right back into that range. And even late in the day after 2 o'clock, we're still hovering around that midline. You can see that midline coming into play. You can see this support line coming into play. I believe this was the pattern, and that's pretty much how you'd want to trade this the rest of the day. Obviously, you want to find these shorter term trends and things. And this is a messy looking chart. And I mean, even late this afternoon, you can see really from lunchtime on, that's untradeable. There's one trade here you might take, and I'll explain that. But this just isn't worth hanging around for to me. It doesn't mean that tomorrow we won't have the move of the century. But for the most part, your trading is going to look like this for hours at a time during these holidays, and it's going to get slower and slower most likely. And again, we could have a big, huge day that you might miss out on if you take off. But you need a break from this stuff. I know I do. And if you're still to the point you're so excited you can't take time off from it and you're not bored with it yet, then you're probably not. You got a lot of work to do. So, but you'd be surprised how much clearer things look and how much better you can read the chart and see the market when you take a break from it. So I like those 3-day weekends and so forth. And I really haven't had a vacation this year. I talked about it yesterday. Because of COVID, I've been stuck here. Can't really do anything. And so I need a couple of weeks off, and I'm going to take it off and enjoy it. And I'm going to try to stay away from this as much as I can. Only email I'll read and answer will be emergency situations. So if you would, please hold your emails till the first of the year. Like I said, if you got emergency or some issue, send it to me. Put emergency in the subject line so I know, and I'll try to take a look at it and address it. So, but anyway, let's talk about the trades and let's wrap this up. I want to keep this down to about 10 or definitely less than 15 minutes. But as you can see, when we came in, we spiked up here. This thing just rockets up here during the overnight. And that's what happens. The volume is very thin, and one buyer could come in here, one big buyer, and they can run this up, and you'll see that a lot in the overnight, especially during holiday or when the volatility is really low and the volume's down. Even when it's not, they manipulate a lot in the overnight. Just the price action works, but you just have to be a brave soul to try to trade it at night. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. But the price action does work, but just be careful because there's a lot of slippage, a lot of sitting for hours, and sometimes it does nothing. I mean, just look at this real quick, just to show you what I'm talking about. That bar formed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't really get any movement until almost 6. So that's 4 hours that nothing happened. I mean, that's not tradable. Don't try to trade that. And you can see, I usually start trading about 7, but really from about 6:30 on, you can start to trade the market. I like to wait till 7. You get a lot more opportunities by then. And it starts moving by then. You can see after about 7 o'clock, it moves pretty, it moves well enough that you can trade it. And you've got enough volume to where there's not a slippage issue and so forth. So just be careful trading that thing in the overnight. And you're a brave soul to do it. But I know some of you, your opportunities to trade in the day are limited, and I get that. But I think you would be better served to spend the money and get you some software and use the playback. I've never used the playback. Um, I mean, if you have the ability to sit here during the day and trade the regular market, by all means, don't trade the playback. Trade the playback. But if that's all you got, sign up for it, figure it out, and learn how to use it and take advantage of it. I think you would be better served to sim trade the playback than to try to trade this overnight stuff. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. I'm not going to make 15 minutes if I don't. But we trended up. We're moving along here, and we get stuck in this. Notice you got a new high here. You try to go higher once. Then you push through here, and you kind of push through the EMA and pull back, and you get a failed second entry long. Look how bearish that bar is. I like going short there. And we're just looking for another leg down. And if you measure that leg, there's two legs in that leg. But you can see that's a perfect measured move. There's 2 measured moves down, and then we bounce. Just what you'd expect, perfect price action. There is a reversal here, but really the failure was right here. And so you would have got stopped at. You want the reversal to come back to the EMA, or at least the trend line. And it's just not a good reversal. But we run up here and we find resistance. Let's just extend this across here. You can see we just came back. We tested that again. And then we get a little failed breakout. And we just test that high again on a lower high. It breaks higher and turns down. Just go short right there. It scared me a little bit. It bounces, but it still works out. You would expect to get another leg down. I mean, that looks like the first leg down, really. So you'd expect another leg down. The fact that we kind of started going sideways. Normally I would have liked the lower high, but I don't like it right here because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars stacked up before it breaks lower. Even though it goes lower, it's not worth risking. There's a reversal looking pattern here again, but look, again, it goes 1, 2, 3 bars sideways. Just stay out of that stuff. Yeah, it works, but it's not worth risking. You just really don't get any more setups. Once you started, originally I had this a little higher right here, but I've moved it down as the day progressed. You can't go short into that support. In fact, notice you finally break down. You get a first entry short, and then you get a second entry short. It fails, and that support's holding. And here you also get a new high here. So first entry, second entry. So it's a second entry long, but the signal bar is not good. But because it's a failed second entry short too, it doesn't matter. It's going to act like a trap, and look how it works. It's a failed breakout, and this is what happens. Even if it's only a failed breakout out of this short-term stuff here, it's still a failed breakout. Plus you had a break here and a new low, and you tried to go lower twice more and it failed. So there's a good chance we're going higher. So I like that one. We run up here, we make a high, we get a close outside, we try to go higher again, and then we make a little double top with a really bearish bar. It's kind of hard to see it through all this stuff here. But you can, let me make this a little bigger. Yeah, maybe that'll help. But you can see that bearish bar. It gaps over there and keeps going. You may not even could get in that trade, but if you could, you want to take it. So just leave it at that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's probably going to be difficult, to get in it. We're just kind of chopping along here. We do bounce down here, but again, this is not rejection. Look how we're going sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. Don't try to go long there. And then we actually get a little channel working up. You get a close outside new high and then a lower high. and you got a nice bearish bar. It actually breaks higher. I thought it was going to go out the other side. Uh, it didn't. It stopped. It closed equal before it broke lower, but it still runs down here to the lows again, and we get another little failed breakout. Again, no rejection though. Don't try to go long without rejection. And then you get another leg down here. And look how far away we are. Look at that small bullish bar. This is aggressive. But I like these trades because you almost always, if you catch it, you almost always get a runner. And this is a little different than trying to catch the low of a trend. This is sideways, and this is going to be a failed breakout. Generally, you're better off to wait on the higher low, but on the best ones, you don't get a higher low. Look, it just. So I'm not. You need to be really good, a really good chart trader to trade these, and you need to understand. Occasionally, they're going to fail. So it's a real low. I mean, it's a four ticks in that bar. Very low risk. If you're wrong, you lose 5 or 6. If you're right, you probably make a runner with multiple points. And that's the exact case here. You would have got, I think you get 5 or 6 points here. Yeah, you could have got 5 or 6 points on a runner, depending on how you manage it. Of course, you might, even if you only got 3 or 4 points, that's 3 or 4 scalps per contract. Those add up. All right, but we continue to kind of fail here, but we're not going anywhere. We're not seeing the move up yet. But finally, we push back in, we pull back, and then you get rejection off that low, and we go higher. And notice there's you try to go lower three times. Now, really, what you're looking at is this is basically a double bottom, and then you try to go low, short once, twice. So I treated that like a failure, and I like that bullish bar. If it breaks higher, we're probably going on up. And then we just go sideways. I marked this one green. This is the closest one to getting in, and again, it's really close to the high. So the only way you could enter this was if it breaks higher and you can drop a limit order and get enough room to get out before here. Yes, it goes on up, but you don't know that. And I'm not even sure if you got in at the one tick at the low of this, you had enough room. I didn't count it all, but if you could, and for future reference, that would be the only way to play that play. We got a little upward bias here because we're trending up, and you can see this yellow channel's in play. The green one was in play coming down, but we got an overshoot that led to a reversal. Plus, it's a range day, so we're probably going to reverse anyway. And so we're heading up here, and then we go sideways. And if you could have got into that one, yeah, but you probably couldn't. And then we just go sideways again right into 2 o'clock. It's not worth fooling with. There's not one single trade there you could have traded that's a good setup that would have worked. Not one. You'd have got burned on any of them. Now, right there, if you'd went long, that might have worked, but there's no setup there, so you can't take that trade. So anyway, that's 18 minutes, probably 8 more than I wanted, but anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I'm going to wrap this thing up. Again, this is it for the year on this is it for chart lessons. And we'll be back. I'm planning on being back January the 2nd. First falls on a Friday, so I think the 2nd's on Saturday, and then, of course, the 3rd will be Sunday. So I think it'll be January 4th before I come back. I haven't looked directly at a calendar, but I'll be back the Monday after New Year's. So I think that's the 4th. But I hope everybody has a blessed Christmas and a blessed New Year. I hope everybody's safe and virus-free and has a wonderful time with their family over the holidays. I know I'm going to enjoy my time off, and we'll see you after the first of the year. So Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm out of here. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.